The instant Elizabeth Thornton glimpsed the necklace on the girl, her world ground to a halt. One moment, she was raising her wine glass. The next, she was transfixed, motionless, silent, her eyes locked on the gold pendant dangling just below Amara's collarbone. It was a delicate charm, a crescent moon etched with a solitary initial, M. Beside her, 16-year-old Liam Thornton grinned, proudly presenting the girl he'd brought home. "Mom, Dad, meet Amara." Amara offered a gentle smile, her voice calm despite the undercurrent of tension in the room. "It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Thornton." Elizabeth didn't respond. Her stare remained fixed on the necklace. Michael Thornton, seated at the table's head, cleared his throat. "So, how did you two meet?" "At the Lincoln shelter," Liam answered swiftly. "She teaches coding to younger kids. That's where I volunteer." "Impressive," Michael said, managing a smile. Elizabeth blinked at last, setting her untouched glass down. "Excuse me," she said, her voice icy, almost fragile. "I'll be back shortly." She rose stiffly, one hand instinctively reaching for the necklace hidden beneath her blouse. Something was deeply wrong. Elizabeth didn't stop until she reached the master suite. She locked the door, hands trembling as she opened the antique jewelry box on her dresser. Buried beneath pearls and diamonds lay a necklace nearly identical to Amara's, a gold crescent moon, etched with the same letter, M. She hadn't seen that symbol in nearly 20 years. Back in the dining room, the air had lightened, but only slightly. Amara sipped water quietly as Liam filled the silence with chatter. "She's into AI and robotics, Mom. She's even applying to Columbia." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Remarkable." Amara nodded. "I've always loved solving puzzles." Michael offered a polite smile, but his gaze flicked back to her necklace. "That's a striking piece. A family heirloom." Amara glanced down. "No, actually. I don't know its origin." "You don't?" "I grew up in foster care. This necklace was the only thing found with me as a baby." The room fell silent. Michael glanced toward the empty doorway where Elizabeth had vanished. Amara, oblivious, stared at the gold charm, unaware it had just unlocked a door the Thornton family had long kept sealed. In the master bathroom, Elizabeth ran cold water over her wrists, her breathing uneven. She hadn't thought of that night in years. The rain, the screams, the choice they vowed never to revisit. And now, a girl stood in her home wearing that necklace. Gripping the counter, she fought to stay upright. Downstairs, Liam was oblivious, captivated by Amara's soft, nervous laugh as she shared a story about a coding student whose robot spun wildly out of control. "It wouldn't stop," she said, grinning. "We had to unplug the entire panel." Michael chuckled politely, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He'd seen that necklace before, wrapped in a blood-soaked blanket in a hospital. Footsteps echoed from the hall. Elizabeth returned, composed but cold as porcelain. She sat with a tight smile. "Sorry, just needed to check something." "Everything all right?" Liam asked. "Of course," she replied. Then, turning to Amara, she asked flatly, "Have you ever tried to find your birth parents?" Amara's expression faltered. She hesitated. "I used to," she whispered. "But I stopped when someone told me to let it go." The silence was suffocating. Liam felt it press against his chest. "Someone told you?" he echoed, leaning forward. Amara nodded. "About 3 years ago, I requested non-identifying records. A week later, I got a typed note in the mail. No return address, just one sentence." "What did it say?" Michael asked, his voice low. Amara glanced between them. It said, "Stop digging. Some graves are sealed for a reason." Elizabeth's knuckles whitened around her wine glass. "And you just stopped?" she asked, feigning casualness. "I was 15. It scared me." Amara looked away, embarrassed. "I figured my parents might be dangerous or powerful, so I let it go. I told myself the past didn't matter." Liam reached for her hand under the table. "It matters," he said. Michael cleared his throat. "You mentioned the necklace was with you as a baby. Do you have any paperwork from the system?" Amara blinked. "Just a copy." "What? Would you let us see it?" he asked, too quickly. Elizabeth shot him a sharp look, but Amara shrugged. "Sure. It's at my apartment." Elizabeth's voice cut through the room. "I want to see it tonight." An hour later, Liam pulled up to Amara's small apartment in a quiet corner of Southside Chicago. The contrast was stark, from penthouse luxury to creaky floorboards. Elizabeth and Michael had insisted on coming. Elizabeth said she wanted answers. Michael said nothing at all. Amara apologized for the mess. Though her apartment was immaculate, books neatly stacked, a small potted plant on the windowsill, an old laptop charging on a desk made of stacked crates. "It's in here," she said, pulling a slim manila folder from a fireproof box under her bed. "It's not much, just intake notes and a faded medical report." She handed it to Elizabeth, whose fingers shook as she opened it. The top page was a hospital report. Female, infant, African American, approximately 5 days old, found abandoned near Lincoln Park shelter, wearing crescent moon necklace. No injuries, no witnesses. Elizabeth's breath caught. Beneath it, a 2007 social worker's note. Infant appeared healthy. Anonymous caller reported location. Caller's voice, female, mid-30s, possibly educated, refused to give name, said, "She's safer without me." Michael stepped back as if struck. Elizabeth sank onto the edge of Amara's couch, unblinking, whispering, "Oh my God, it was you." Liam, confused, looked between them. "What do you mean, Mom? What's going on?" Elizabeth didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the folder as if it had summoned a ghost. Amara stood frozen, gripping her desk. "You recognize this, don't you?" Michael asked quietly, staring at his wife. Elizabeth's voice cracked. "That necklace, it's not just similar. It's identical. I had one made years ago." She stopped. "Before what?" Liam demanded, panic rising. Michael's voice was a whisper. "Before the baby." Amara's lips parted, stunned. "What baby?" Elizabeth stood too quickly. "This isn't the time or place." Amara's voice trembled. "I think I have the right to know." Elizabeth turned to Liam. "She may be your sister." Silence, heavy and merciless. "No," Amara whispered, stepping back as if slapped. "That's not possible." Elizabeth didn't deny it. Michael sank into a chair, face in his hands. Liam stood, the world tilting beneath him. "No, that's insane," he said louder. Amara retreated to the corner, arms crossed tightly, tears brimming but held back. Elizabeth's face aged a decade in moments. "I was 20, she said finally. "In college, unmarried, unready. My parents threatened to disown me if I kept the baby. So I made the worst choice of my life." She looked at Amara. "They told me you were adopted. I didn't know where you went. But I couldn't leave you with nothing, so I left the necklace." Amara's voice was cold. "You abandoned me. I hated myself every day for it." Liam turned to his mother, hollow. "And you never told me." Michael spoke, his voice brittle. "I found out 2 years after we married. She told me in tears. I swore we'd never speak of it again." Then he asked what no one else dared. "Are you sure she's not mine?" The next morning was quiet. Amara hadn't slept, sitting on her bed, knees to her chest, clutching the necklace she once thought was just a trinket. Her world had flipped overnight. She didn't know who to trust, least of all herself. A knock startled her. Liam, alone, looked as sleepless as she did. He handed her an envelope. "A private DNA lab. They'll come to you. No records, no publicity." Amara stared at it. "You think I might be your sister?" "I don't know what to think," he admitted. "But I want the truth." "Whatever it is," she said, taking the envelope. Back at the Thornton penthouse, Elizabeth sat silently at the dining table. Michael paced, phone in hand. "She hates me," Elizabeth whispered. I saw it in her eyes. "She's allowed to," Michael replied. "But this doesn't have to end in hate." Hours later, the DNA technician came and went. 3 days passed. An email arrived in Amara's inbox. She opened it, heart pounding. 99.9% probability of a direct maternal relationship to Elizabeth Thornton. No paternal match to Michael Thornton. Elizabeth stood alone on the rooftop garden of Thornton Tower, clutching the necklace she'd hidden for nearly 2 decades. The DNA results confirmed what she'd known in her gut, but Michael's non-paternity changed everything. "I failed her twice," she whispered. "When I gave her away, and when I met her and saw only shame." Amara appeared quietly. "You wanted to meet?" she said softly. "So I came." Elizabeth turned, voice breaking. "Thank you." They sat on a bench beneath the glass awning, the city humming below. "I almost didn't come," Amara admitted. "But I remembered what you asked that first night, about the necklace and my parents. I used to want answers. Now I just want peace." Elizabeth pulled a velvet box from her coat. Inside was the twin necklace. "I had 2 made," she said. "One for me, one for the baby I thought I'd never see." Amara stared, then met Elizabeth's eyes. "I don't need it to know who I am," she whispered. "But I'll wear it to remember who you chose to be." 3 months later, the Thornton Foundation announced a scholarship for young women in foster care pursuing tech education, called the Amara Blake Initiative. At the press launch, Elizabeth stood beside Amara, not as a benefactor, but as a mother trying to show up. Liam spoke at the podium. "She's not my sister by blood," he said, "but I'd be proud if she was." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Later, in the Foundation's mentorship wing, Amara helped a shy 12-year-old troubleshoot a broken circuit. Elizabeth watched from the hallway, eyes wet but steady. Michael stood beside her. "She's not your mistake," he said. "She's your miracle." Elizabeth didn't reply. She didn't need to. Amara wore both necklaces now, not as symbols of pain, but as a bridge between past and future. She hadn't just found a family, she'd redefined one. Sometimes the strongest bonds aren't those we're born into, but those we choose to fight for. If this story touched you, share it with someone who believes healing is possible. Subscribe for more stories that remind us love isn't about blood, it's about who shows up.